All right, and welcome to the show. That's my ripped off Joe Rogan Experience intro right there. Let's see it one more time. All right. And thanks for watching today. I came on to talk to you about the Farm Bill, which passed this week, and there's been some confusion about it. What does the Farm Bill mean for trading the MJ stocks? And in fact, where do we go from here on MJ stocks? So they really are all over the board, and it's hard to tell what to do. So let's check out that when I come back. And here we go. So the Farm Bill passed this week, and there was some misinterpretation of it. I think some people thought that it was going to legalize marijuana in the United States. It actually, what it does is it legalizes hemp. And this bill was sponsored by Mitch McConnell and the majority leader, and the bill would not have gone through without him. So I guess kudos to Mitch McConnell if you're into hemp. I have an article here in front of me that talks about it from the Brookings Institute, and I just wanted to review that with you here and now. And it says, this week, Congress agreed to the final version of the 2018 Farm Bill, and President Trump is expected to sign the legislation within days. Typically, cannabis is not part of the conversation around farm subsidies, nutritional assistance, and crop insurance. Yet this year, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell's strong support of and leadership on the issue of hemp has thrust the cannabis plant into the limelight. So hemp does come from the same plant that marijuana comes from. However, what will be legalized is marijuana plants that contain less than 0.3% THC. Per Section 10113 of the Farm Bill. Any cannabis plant that contains more than 0.03% THC will be considered non-hemp cannabis. Under federal law, you can't do that. So this does not legalize marijuana in any sense. You know, it's legalizing the same plant, though, and it kind of moves things forward. The other thing that people were talking about with this was, does this legalize some sort of cannabinoid oil? That would be, the products associated with NBEV, otherwise known as CBD. And here's the answer to that. Cannabidiol, or CBD, is made legal under specific circumstances. One big myth that exists about the Farm Bill is that CBD, a non-intoxicating compound found in cannabis, is legalized. It's true that this removes hemp-derived products from its Schedule I status, but the legislation does not legalize CBD generally. CBD generally remains a Schedule I substance under federal law. So the only drug which is legal that has to do with cannabis right now is GW Pharmaceuticals' Epidiolex. The other issue that I found interesting in this article is that the only place that people are allowed to study marijuana legally and to receive marijuana legally from to study it is the University of Mississippi School of Pharmacy's National Center for Natural Products Research. So what that means is that if you want to study, say the government wants to study marijuana and its effects, they have to get that marijuana from University of Mississippi School of Pharmacy's National Center for Natural Products Research. That's a mouthful, once again. So this does not move the ball forward all that much for cannabis. Now, we know that many states have legalized medical marijuana, and some have even legalized recreational marijuana. So, and it says here, indeed, 33 states have legalized cannabis for medical purposes, and over the past 6 years, 10 states have legalized cannabis for adult use. Every one of those programs is still illegal under federal law, with no exceptions, and the Farm Bill does nothing to change that. So there you have it, folks. The Farm Bill does nothing to change that. So let's take a look at some of these MJ stocks. Now, some of them began to catch a bid when the Farm Bill passed, and that, I think, due to misinformation from people who thought that this meant somehow that pot was going to become legal. And in fact, they didn't really go up much after that. NBEV, for example, had a little pop last week, but is sort of back down. Tilray has, as if you've been following me, you'll know, has been sort of taking it on the chin, really gone down a lot. It seemed for a couple months that Tilray was gonna bounce off 100. It bounced off 100 here back in October, and it had sort of bounced off 100 after that high of 300 way back in September. But it's broken through 100 and actually broken through 75. It did trade down to, I believe, 70, 80 on let's see, was that Thursday or Friday? And Afria has had its woes with bearish short seller reports over the last couple weeks, back down to 5, basically where it was 2 years ago. CGC and ACB have kind of avoided the worst of this crunch. Although if you look at ACB, it's way, 50% at least off its high of 1253 or in September. CGC almost 50% off its high of $60 also. So where do we go from here in the cannabis industry? And part of the keys and clues to this I find in valuing these companies and what their PE ratios are for future earnings. That's how a lot of companies are valued in the stock market. And if we apply the same logic to these marijuana stocks, we find that even with values here, are valuing the companies in the expensive end of things. These companies in general don't have that much earnings because they've just started production in the last year or two. And so all of this speculation on them about them is for future earnings. And so I feel that there's pressure to the downside on these a lot. Now, if you just kind of look at these and just think, well, this industry is going to grow, and so the stocks are going to triple and quadruple and split and triple and quadruple and that sort of thing, that just is not going to happen because the valuations are already pretty high in these stocks. There's been, there was a big hype over this, and the people that got in for the hype are disappearing now, and what is left is actual companies having to make something. Now, the good news is they do make something. It is an expanding industry, and it is an industry that's going to grow. That's the good news. The bad news is we don't know how much this particular product is going to cost, for one thing. Once all these companies are up and it's legalized, it's going to be a commodity, and the sexiness of it is going to back off a little bit, I would think, because now that it's legal, it's going to become a commodity like anything else. So I would be hesitant to get long these things. I know I've been following Chart Guys Dan, and there was so much excitement coming up to the legalization, but it's been a buy the rumor, sell the news story in a big way, and I don't really see that changing anytime soon. Now, maybe someday these will reach the levels that they reached previously and rally higher, but right now, especially with the rest of the market in turmoil, when the rest of the market's in turmoil, people batten down the hatches. They go back to basics. They stop playing these these extra areas. Now, some people they are going to be selling this stuff at a loss for tax losses. Remember, we're coming into the end of the year now, and people start selling stuff to realize tax losses so that they can write them off against gains, or just have losses on their taxes to lower their tax rate. So, and a lot of people, when we look at the CGC chart, a lot of people bought it around 50, and if they sell it here, they'll realize losses to help them on their taxes. Same thing with Afria. A lot of people bought Afria higher than it is now, and it would make sense for them to get out. Now, of course, a new group of people are going to come in and be excited about this industry and may propel these higher, but Africa certainly has been a dead cat as far as its bounce, and I don't see that changing real soon. Now, ACB, which has avoided a lot of this stuff, seems to have a pretty decent base from here. It could go down to 4, but I see the upside maybe being better than the downside. Canopy growth seems to have some sort of base around 2025, but doesn't look great either. So the industry has lost a little bit of its luster. Like I said, in the years past, people have made fortunes on this, and it's been great. But right now, lost a little bit of its luster. There has been a lot of fraud, like in the .com industry, with so many companies coming online and so many people willing to throw money at it. There's been a lot of fraud out there. Check out the video on Afria and the short sellers to learn more about that. But so it's sketchy out there, and I would definitely be careful with these. We've seen these buck the market, buck the sell-off to some extent, but that can only last for so long as people, as the market tanks. It's very hard for people to step up and buy stuff that is the only stuff like up on the day. Like Tilray was one of the only ones up on the day with the market tanking Friday, and eventually it succumbed to what was happening to the rest of the market. So, when we've got a rallying market, everybody's a genius and everything goes up. But when we've got markets in turmoil like this, one has to be very selective, and one might want to play something to the short side. Heaven forbid. This has been my theme in a lot of videos lately. So be careful out there. The Farm Bill doesn't really change the playing field all that much on the federal level for cannabis. Now, having hemp in there and having more research into hemp, which the Farm Bill allows for, is good, certainly, and it does kind of move things along a little bit in the right direction for the government. It's not going backwards, at least, but this is not some huge breakthrough for the industry. Thank you for watching, and check me out coming up soon. I always appreciate your support, and please check out Gorilla Trades, and I will talk to you next time.